Hello guys, in this video tutorial I will teach you the aggregate functions. So let's define what is aggregate function. An aggregate function performs a calculation on a set of values and return a single value except for a count. Aggregate function ignore null values. Aggregate functions are often used with a group by clause of the select statement. So let's start one by one the aggregate functions. First we talk about the count function. So with the count function we can count the number of rows for particular number of attributes. Attributes can be one or more than one, but the count function will count the number of records. So let's select some rows from table. For example, we select data from the student table. We have 15 rows, so we can calculate the number of rows through count function. So we will give in brackets steric. So steric means select all the rows, count all the rows of the student table. So it gives 15. So instead of steric, if we write any other attribute such as name, so still it will calculate the same results. Now the question arises that if we want to count the students based on the address, for example, how many students belong to particular address such as Lahore, how many students we have from the Karachi, Islamabad and so on. So we will use a group. So here we will use a group by clause of the select statement. So let's see how a group is applied. Select count of steric from student, group by address. Sorry, mistake, there are two s at the end. So we have the number of counts for each address. Suppose we want to display each address also. So the number of students from Peshawar are 3, Karachi is only 1, Islamabad 2, Multan 2, and the number of students belong to Lahore are 7. So count function is useful. We can count any number of records for particular number of attributes, and we can include the where clause on the basis of which we can do a limited selection. Suppose we want to count all the records based on address except Peshawar. So how can we do that? We can easily do that by writing where clause along with the select command. So select address, count of steric from student, where address is not equal to Peshawar, group by address. So Peshawar is not included here. But now if we want to select if we want to count the number of records, but only those records should be displayed whose count is greater than, for example, 2 or 3. So we will not use then where. So instead we will use the having clause here. Suppose you want to display all the records whose count is greater than 3. So having count of records greater than 2, for example. So there are only 2 addresses whose count is found greater than 2. So further we can include where clause here. So where will be included where clause will be included above the group and having clause. So where address is not equal to, for example, Peshawar. So only Lahore is displayed. Now comes toward before coming to next, so I would like to solve another example. Let's see the table. Select steric from student. We have other column, department. So here we have inserted either CS department, or student can belong to SE department. So let's count department. Select count of department, select department, count of department or count of steric from student, having, or we not included it, having group by. So if we finish this statement, so all the count will be count of records will be retrieved. So total counts are 15. But if we want to count the number of CS department and SC department, so we can write select count of department from student, group by department. So the CS department students are 8 and SE department students are 7. Now if we want to display the department name, so you can write department and then you can see CS students and count of CS students and SE students. Now further you can include a where clause, and on the basis of where clause you can further count the total number of students. For example, only those students should be counted whose address is Lahore. So below this select query you will write the where clause and will write the address is equal to Lahore. Now move toward the another function, minimum. A minimum function is used to find the minimum value in all the attribute values. Suppose we want to find the minimum value in a particular table. Select steric from marks, for example, and we want to calculate the minimum or 10 marks in the whole table. So how can we do that? We can do this like select minimum of marks of 10 from marks table. So it is 30. So 30 is the minimum marks. Similarly, we can find the maximum numbers of 10, which is 97. So we can write these two together. Select maximum and along with the minimum marks of 10 from the given table. Now move towards the another function, sum and average. So if we want to sum the whole attribute values, so we will use the sum function. Select sum of, for example, of 10 marks from marks. So total sum is 2310. Now if we want to calculate the average instead of total, so because the total marks of 10, sum of marks of 10 is useless, so the better will be to find the average. So for average we will divide it with the total number of records. So total number of records are 36, so we will divide it with the 36. So the average is 66, but how we will know the number of records are 36? So you can use the count function here. So count of records, so count of steric, we will divide the sum of marks divided by count of all the records. So you can see the result is same in both cases. Instead of taking sum and divided it on the count of records, you can directly put the average function here. So how we will write? We will write avg, average of the marks obtained from marks, which is also the same. So there are three different ways to calculate the average. Now we want to we want to find the average of each student. So we will use the group function here, group clause here. So we will find the average based on the student IDs from marks, group by student ID. So individual result for each student is shown here, but we don't know the students who's got the average marks. So we will now include the student ID. So student 1 got average marks of 60, student 6 got average marks of 53, student 11 got average marks of 70, and so on. So we can round this by taking round function here. So this is the rounding average marks of each students. Suppose we want to display the number of failed students, means the number of failed students should be displayed, which I think is only one student who got marks less than 50. So we can write here having round of average of total marks less than 50. So two students, student number 4 got 42 and student ID 10 got 46. If we want to display the name of these students, so now we will include another table, because name attribute is not included in the marks table, it is in the student table. So we will write here student ID along with the name from two tables now, from student and marks, and we will write here the table name, because student ID is included in both tables. So if the attribute belong to if the particular attribute is common in two or more than two tables, so we should write the table name here. But here we will also include group by student ID plus along with the name. So if we don't write name, it will not execute it. So let's check one thing more. So we must have to use the where clause, where student dot student ID is equal to marks dot student ID. If you don't write this, the result will be not correct, and for each student all the results of the rest of students will be repeated. Now column ambiguously defined. Which column? Group by student dot student ID. Now we can see student ID 4, name is Asad and he got 42 marks. Student ID 10, Kiramat, who got 46 marks. So in this way you can use the aggregate function by including where, group, and having clause. Now solve other examples. If we want to find the average based on the department, means the average marks of the CS department and average marks of the software department students as a whole should be displayed. So we can easily do it like this. Select department name, and this query will find the total average marks based on the average function from student and marks, where student ID is equal to marks student ID group by department. Instead of where, you can also use the inner join. How? We will write from student inner join marks on student dot student ID is equal to marks dot student ID. Thank you so much for listening me, and wait for the other videos, and please subscribe my channel. Thank you.